Well, hello out there in Periscope land. What's going on? Oh, flip you back around here. Hold on. So what's going on out there in Periscope land? Glad you can join me. Let's talk recovery is the title for this one. So I'm looking forward to hearing from some of you guys about your recovery, possibly, or maybe the recovery of somebody that's close to you. If you're not in recovery by yourself, if you have questions, I'll be glad to answer them for you. So I guess let me just start by, if you're in recovery, taking a sip of coffee. Let me just start by sharing a little bit about my recovery. I was just bred in a lifestyle of addiction, and by the summer of getting out of 5th grade and going into 6th grade, I had tried marijuana for my first time. I tried alcohol before then in my 5th grade year. And, by the time I went to 6th grade, I was a full-blown stoner. And I remember all the times that I said I wouldn't do, the harder drugs. I wouldn't do cocaine. I wouldn't do pills. I wouldn't do crack. My first sponsor was really good with one-liners, and he told me that my nevers were really just my yets. And that was true because I just hadn't tried them yet. And I remember pretty distinctly, I can't tell you the dates, but I can tell you where I was and who I was with each time I crossed one of those lines, whether it was, cocaine or crack or crystal meth or pills. I remember the person I was with. I remember where we were at. I remember right before doing it thinking to myself, oh no, here we go. I'm about to cross this line. And, hey man, I was an addict, and it really didn't matter what it was. Speed drugs were my preference, but it really didn't matter what it was. As long as it altered my perception of reality, I was all in for it. And, there were a lot of drugs that did damage to me socially, mentally, physically. Some of the worst were Oxycontins. Those were the worst withdrawal I had ever experienced in my life. Literally made me feel like I was dying. And I wish I could say that I only went through that detox process once. But I remember pretty vividly this one time I went to detox, spent 7 days in what seemed like pure hell, and then I came home, and a couple friends were waiting on me, and they'd actually made a bet that one bet that I would use, and the other one bet that I wouldn't. As soon as I got home, and as soon as I walked through the door, they had a pill crushed up on a plate waiting for me, and I didn't even say anything. They handed me the straw, and I just did it. And that was the insanity of my addiction. The drug that really brought me to my knees was crystal meth. If I could ever compare a drug to Satan himself, crystal meth is it. Just delusions and paranoia and staying up for days at a time, and it was just horrible, and it did a lot of damage to my body and to my mind. Detoxing off of that, I actually had to detox off of that in the county jail of all places, and I heard voices for 6 months, to 9 months maybe, and saw shadow people even coming off of it months later, shadows moving, thinking they were people. And that's a scary thing to do in jail. And so, I ended up having to spend a few years in prison. I think when I was in prison, I attempted to smoke one joint. I don't even think it was really marijuana. I think the guy was trying to get one over on me. I think it was tobacco. So and since then, I've had no addictive personality, no addictive lifestyle issues with drugs. Did have a relapse on alcohol, which I really consider the same thing. Where I might be able to say, well, I've been clean from drugs for going on 10, 11 years now. Truly, my sobriety, it has a relapse with alcohol, which I'm celebrating actually 3 years come this September. And so, drugs. Was I an alcoholic? I would say yes, because I loved to drink. I did. And drinking always, for me, it always led to drugs. Always. And even with my relapse after getting out of prison, I went to a place called Faith Farm and spent a year there, graduated there. First thing I ever completed in my entire life. I also got my GED while I was there, so two completions from that awesome and wonderful program in Boynton Beach, Florida. And so, I even with my relapse in alcohol, I relapsed as soon as I got out of Faith Farm. And I really can't, well, not as soon as I got out. I stayed in Palm Beach for a little bit, for a few months, but as soon as I came home, I relapsed. And, then I went into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous for 2 years. And after 2 years, I quit the program. I didn't immediately relapse, at least not physically anyway. I was already relapsing in my head. And I got a big head thinking, I didn't need the program anymore. And, I was different, and all of that stuff. And eventually I picked up the drink, and I would justify it. I'm just having a drink with dinner. Or I'm just having a beer at home. And eventually it led to me drinking and driving on one of our anniversaries. And at that point I decided, something had to change. And so I tried to white knuckle it for like a year and a half. I just didn't drink. But man, I was just a dry drunk. I was angry. And my wife, one day she just made the comment. She said, you might as well be drinking because, you're just a happier guy. And so I knew I had to get back to working a program. That's when I found Celebrate Recovery here in Vero Beach. And, I just fell in love with Celebrate Recovery and how it integrates our faith and our recovery. We don't identify ourselves as our addiction or as our struggle. We identify ourselves as a child of God, and a child of God who struggles with substance abuse or anger issues, and many other things that I struggle with. And I remember actually hearing someone in an AA meeting identify themselves like that, and I remember I cringed, and not because I didn't believe in God, but just I don't know. I just cringed, and when I've gone to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings and have introduced myself like that, I can see other people kind of cringe, and but I'm okay with that today because I am a child of God and I have struggles. Well, I would love to say that I had 1,000 viewers with all kinds of questions, but I still see I have no one who has tuned in. I won't let that hurt my ego too much. I tell you what, there's somebody there. Hey, how are you doing today? We're talking about recovery. I just shared in pretty long length my recovery. If you have any questions about recovery or about how I got sober, I would be glad to answer those for you. Also appreciate any hearts that you'd like to give. Just trying to get my Periscope page, out there with topics of faith and topics of recovery. for you who just tuned in, are you in recovery? Are you in recovery for substance abuse or anger and rage, and or any other kind of life-altering situations or circumstances? I'd love to hear about that. I'd love to get a comment or a question if you have one. So ask away. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. I like my new haircut. You think about that. It's a pompadour. A pompadour is what they called it. So I love coffee, man. Yes, black coffee, straight black coffee. Coffee and recovery seem to go together like hand in hand. I wonder if there is a recovering coffee anonymous or a recovery group for coffee drinkers. I don't know that would be received too well in the world of recovery. Everybody seems to like coffee in recovery. All right, any questions? Got a couple viewers now. Any questions? Would love to hear from you guys. I don't see anything popping up on my screen here. All right, well, I am going to load this up to my YouTube channel. You can search George Lynch, or I believe, I think it's the name is George Lynch on there. And also, don't forget, you can find Celebrate Recovery Vero Beach on Periscope, on Twitter as CR Vero Beach or CRVB. And you can also find me on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. So I will be glad to interact with you on any of those social medias. And please tune in again to my next Periscope. I really like this app and really like being able to share in live time. And would love to hear from you guys sooner or later. So don't be afraid to question or comment or shoot a couple hearts out there if you're going to view this, or if you are viewing this on YouTube. Hey, drop me a comment. Let me know how your recovery is going and what kind of questions you might have for your recovery. Until then, God grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom not to strangle somebody. I'll talk to you guys later.